So, I think I really would like to start with AIDS, if you don't mind.
No.
And just again to give you a little bit of additional backstory. Well, I was tested for AIDS, and I think it was around 1985.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I can't remember anymore.
It's very early.
I was born with a blood disease called spherocytosis, and I had my spleen removed when I was 6. I had to be old enough to handle the surgery, but I couldn't wait too long, or I would die because I was getting blood transfusions every 6 weeks. And so, if you park it there, it starts somewhere around 1981 or so, or 1980. There's these 5 gay men in San Francisco, and all of a sudden, then 5 babies show up in New York that have symptoms.
So, if you want a really good historical book to read, The Band Played On is a great book that talks about it from the beginning. It was also a movie, and you would probably find it under the kind of documentary kind of movies. And it's it had every person, Lily Tomlin. I mean, I can't even, I didn't think up on that as one of your questions.
It's okay.
So it's really a great movie, and it shows you exactly what happened. So what happened was that the very first person in the United States that we know, and it has been, the CDC has looked into this forever and ever, was an airline steward.
Gaetan Dugas.
And he not only had friends at every port and call.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was having sex with people in San Francisco and Washington, D.C., and Chicago and Miami and New Orleans. And so that is how it all started.
He was apparently a very actually I have a picture
handsome,
of him. Very handsome guy.
Mm-hmm. Very handsome. And it was first called GRID, GRID, G-R-I-D, disease, infectious disease. I don't remember what the R was. First of all, I am not a medical provider. I am not a lawyer. I was a school teacher.
Sure. Right.
that worked for the Red Cross and taught about HIV and AIDS. And that became my passion. And then I came on to the board of the AIDS Action Coalition, and then eventually became AAC's first education person.
Right.
And then through a series of events became the executive director and now CEO.
Right. Yeah, and the other term was the 4 H's. It was like homo, Haitian, hemophiliac, and there was one other H.
Yeah, these are this is like 35 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I bring that up and you kind of just touched on it, right? So that was patient 0, Gaetan, right? There was no funding because there was this huge stigma, no funding from the government to really say, hey, we need to get a handle on this. I believe the web you start going down this hole of trying to research this, and then the conspiracies start popping off, right? And just like the pandemic, did it start here? Did it start there? Where did it start? Is the government involved? And then there's some really crazy conspiracies that continue to sprawl out.
And not only that, did it start from a monkey? Did it, all these things that we had to fight at the very beginning.
Right.
It's always been a human disease, and it's a virus, which we all know. Viruses, we don't have a cure for any virus. Viruses mutate and they change.
Sure.
And so that is why new medications are constantly, in the early years we had AZT and that was it. Then they realized that they needed, these other AZT plus. And then we finally, the drug companies, albeit they made a lot of money off of HIV and AIDS, but they also have done a remarkable job of making this now just a
chronic disease,
like heart disease. Or, you do have to be careful from the standpoint that you want to make sure. Now we know that people who are undetectable and they don't have enough virus in their system, they take their medications correctly, consistently, they basically will not infect another person through sex. But that in itself, making sure that you keep up with those doctor's appointments and those lab appointments, and making sure that your lab results you're still undetectable, and maybe your virus has mutated a little bit and it needs a little tweak on another medication.
Yeah.
So it's not, let's say it's a chronic disease, but it's a chronic disease that you do need to pay attention to.
Yeah.